Welcome to welcome to SoMeridian Toastmasters, where we are so meridian, especially today. Especially today. So we'll have a bit of levity with our with our fellow Toastmaster, Kim. Can you give us a bit of levity with a joke?
Certainly. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I have a couple of jokes. The first one is called well-balanced horse. What do you call a well-balanced horse?
Ooh.
Stable.
Ah, okay.
Next one. How do you make an oak tree laugh? How do you make an oak tree laugh? Tell
Laughing. Oh,
tell acorn knee joke. Tell
well,
acorn knee joke.
I was thinking that was something like that.
Something with acorn, right?
Mhm.
All right, the last one, third one. What did the big flower say to the little flower? Hey, bud.
ah,
Yeah.
And
look at
that's all I that's all I have. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
awesome, awesome. Thank you. Those are interesting jokes. I wonder where you got them from, but maybe just keep them there. That's okay. That's okay. That was good. We will start. There's my whoever wants to be grammarian or whoever's grammarian. The roles that we have picked today will have each and every person who has a assigned role share what those responsibilities are for those roles. We'll start with the timer. We'll start with the timer. Brandy, you want to share what the role of the timer is?
All right. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests today. As timer, I'm going to let you know when you've reached your minimum amount of time, depending on what type of speech you're giving. A regular speech is generally 5 to 7 minutes. And so at 5 minutes, you would get a green. Can you see that on the screen?
Very
You'll get
impressive.
you'll get a green background once you reach the minimum at 5 minutes. And then again, this is for a 5 to 7 minute speech. And so then at 6 minutes, you would get the yellow. This is where you want to start wrapping it up. And then once you get to 7 minutes, you get the red, and that's the full amount of time. There is a 30-second period after that that you're technically allowed to go past, but the red means, okay, you're done now. So now you really got to wrap it up. So 5 to 7 minutes for speech is generally how we do it. For the table topics, it's 1 to 2 minutes. So 1 minute green, 1.5 minutes yellow, 2 minutes red. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. So 2 minutes green, 2.5 minutes yellow, and 3 minutes red. And at the end of the meeting, I will give a report back to everybody on how they did in terms of their timing. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. The next role will be the role of the agrarian. Will, can you share what the role of the agrarian is?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. My role as grammarian is to introduce the word of the day and encourage its use by speakers, evaluators, and table topics participants. I will note who uses the word of the day or a derivative of it correctly or incorrectly. I will listen to word usage and note any awkward misuse or spectacular use of the English language. I will also note words and sounds used as crutch or pause fillers such as and, well, but, and by anyone who speaks during the meeting, and I will give my report at the end of the meeting. And the word of the day is slipshod. Slipshod is basically means carelessly done or arranged. And in a sentence, I woke up really late today, so I apologize for my slipshod appearance. Thank you, Madam Postmaster.
Very good, very good. That is a word I've heard, but I didn't know what it meant. What is it?
The definition?
Yes, what is the meaning?
I'll pull it up for you.
Can you say it out loud for us?
Slipshod, SLIP,
Okay.
SHOD.
Oh, not slip shot, slip
Right.
shod. Oh, thank you. And the definition again is,
Carelessly done or arranged.
ooh. I hope the perception is not that we are slipshod, because we are not. All right, the next role I would like to have introduced is the role of the table topics master. Table topics master.
Greetings, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. The purpose of the Topics Master is to facilitate table topics where guests and members will have the opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking. I will introduce a topic as soon as I can think of one and call speakers who will be given 2 minutes to speak on the subject. This is my opening.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, we just.
Oh,
you know,
oh, should I do that now or wait?
Wait until.
Okay.
that's time.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Buffy.
Thank
you. Appreciate it. Okay, the final role will be the role of the general evaluator. And Will, would you also like to take on the second role?
I got it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you again, Madam Toastmaster. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. The purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting. During the meeting, I will take notes on everything that happens and doesn't happen. I will evaluate each participant on the meeting program and look for good examples of preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, observation, and performance of duties. At the end of the meeting, I will give my report. Thank you, Madam
Awesome.
Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Illustrious speech on evaluation. Now it's time for what we are here for. We are here to speak and to practice our craft. And we have a volunteer who has elected to give an extemporaneous speech, which means he's going to speak with a topic that we don't know. And do we have an evaluator for? Yeah.
We do, Madam
Great. Would
Toastmaster.
you introduce our speaker?
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Today, we have the pleasure to hear from Kim Chen, who will be giving an extemporaneous speech, impromptu speech that I do not know the subject of. So it's going to be very interesting to evaluate. I think sometimes maybe it's good to evaluate when you don't know what's coming on. And sometimes it's good to know ahead of time because you can focus on different things. So with that, I am going to hand the mic over to Kim Chen to give his speech. Kim.
Imagine waking up in the middle of the night. You're this little kid out of nowhere, just get woken up by his parents. His siblings are all around him, and he has no idea what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow members, and honored guests, this is the story all about me, myself. We can call it a retelling of my childhood. As you all know, we're all from different culture, so I like to tell you about where I come from. Just to go back to my earlier statement of being woken up at 6 years old in the middle of the night. What the heck is going on? That was a vivid moment in my memory where it was the transition, the start of how my family moved to the United States. As my parents is hustling and bustling around in the middle of the night, I had no idea what was going on. We had no idea what was going on. They grabbed everything And the next thing I remember in my memory is being on a train. Where is this train going? I have no idea. But we're in this train going for what seemed like multiple days. Since I was a little kid, since I am a little kid at the time, there's not much. These are glimpses and stories of what I remember. After that, what's next? We end up being in a small village. My sisters and I, every morning we would wake up to the sound of chickens. There's a lot of chickens all around this place. We are in a community, a refugee camp, now that I know of it as. There's other children's, other family all over the place. And we all gathering together. We are doing things in education. We have to go to school. My parents, I don't know what they were doing, but they're somehow surviving in communal with other family. And so we stay here for a couple of years, and I have no idea what's happening next. Until one morning where all of a sudden these two strangers show up and they said, "We got to go. It is time to go." And so we gather all our things, all our baggage, all our materials that we have, which is very little, by the way, because I found out later that a lot of that was just left behind from where our home was when I first remember being woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So here we are, packing what little we have in backpacks. There's me, who's now close to 8 years old, one of my sister, who is 2 years younger, and the youngest, who is just barely a year and a half. So we follow these guys, and part of my memory is being carried by one person. I looked over the shoulder, the other guy is also carrying my other sisters. I look on the ground, and there's just all these leaves that looked just like caterpillars. Why caterpillar? I do not know. To this day, I think there's some fear in me of caterpillars, which is true. And so I picture all these dead leaves as they're being carried as caterpillars. These guys were actually are actually taking us across the border from Cambodia to Thailand. I found out at the time that the reason they needed to get us out was because no way to leave Cambodia in 1990. The borders were closed and there was just not a way to leave the country. But we have been sponsored and now we have to get to a place where we can fly out and come to the US. One of the scariest memory that I had of trying to meet the guides, this happened a couple nights later, is that we were sneaking because there were guerrillas, there were militias who were actually in the forest that were patrolling the borders, and we are trying to get across. One of the memory I had is that as we were sneaking around, my little sister's crying, and because of the crying, you could hear other voices out, and then shots being fired. So here we are rushing left, right. My one guy had me and one of my parents. The other guy had my sister, and my mom. Then gunshots all over the place. We were running around, and all of a sudden we hear explosion. I don't know what that explosion is from, but the next morning, as I come to realization, we get to our destination across the border, and I'm sitting there with a guide and with my mom, and one sister, and I realize that my dad and my other sister is not there. Part of my memory that comes back to me is that I was so sad. I was crying. The memory overwhelmed me, and I didn't know what was going on. That maybe one of my dad or my sister may have died through the whole ordeal. And then, luckily, the next day, I see in the distance walking to the camp where we're at, my dad, and one of my sister and guide, and we were all gathered together, and there was happiness all over. So So why am I telling you guys this story? One of the reasons I'm telling you this story is because there's a lot of history, my history, that I recently realized that I don't know about, and I kind of want to share, and I wanted to share that with you a little bit where I came from, a little bit of where I came here. So I hope you take this and realize that we're all from different areas and we all have different backgrounds and history, and I hope that we all share the ability to share that with each other when the time comes. And I hope that this inspires somebody to even share about their story in an icebreaker. And with that, I turn it back to you, Miss Toastmaster.
Thank you, thank you. That was a very, very moving speech. I didn't know that about you, Kim, so that's good. I'm glad you're sharing some of your history, and I hope you're sharing it with your kids as well, so that they know more about their father and his legacy. Yes, yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. Good job, good job. All right, the next part of our Toastmaster journey is to go into table topics to you start your table topics table topics or not, but you can.
I don't know that.
You should.
Yeah, I think I have a topic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. You're welcome. You're welcome. Excited that you took the role.
Again, I'm Buffy Finkel. And as we know, the purpose of the Toastmaster Topics Master is to facilitate the table topics where guests and members have the opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking. I will introduce a topic today and call on speakers who will be given 2 minutes to speak on the subject. And am I the timer for that? Still, Brandy's still the timer. Fabulous. All right, so the topic, thank you, Kim, because it was a perfect segue. The topic I would introduce is stories we tell about our lives. And I'd like to begin, if I may. There's the first 5 rounds. So the stories we tell about our lives are often stories that live at the back of our brains. It's what I say to myself. I don't even often know I'm saying it. When something happens in my life, when someone walks up to me and pats me hard on the back of my back, I can tell myself a story that they really care about me because I'm a valuable person. Or I can say, wow, he hit me really hard. He must not like me at all. Or what a butt he is, if you want to use inappropriate slang. Anyway, that's a story, and that story comes from deep within. It's a story that is often we install them when we're very young. We are taught to make judgments about what happens to us instead of simply saying, wow, he hit me on the shoulder. I'm not going to tell myself a story about why unless I want to turn to that person and ask them why they touched me in that way. That's a way to notice the story I tell myself and the way I can not go down a rabbit hole into judgment. It's a way to stay in a healthy place. What happens in my life if people, I've heard people say, I'm always getting, people are driving like crazy and they're always hitting my car because people are such butts. I keep using that great word. That's a story I tell myself about the fact that my car keeps getting hit. I don't know why. I could know why, but when I can identify the story I tell myself, then I can start to change that story. So, brief lesson in stories we tell ourselves, and I invite others to come up and speak on this vague and broad topic. And I am complete.
You want to call on someone, or anyone want to call?
Would anyone else like to speak?
I will.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the stories we tell ourselves. I use the word I said in my head a lot, which I believe is the same thing as a story I tell myself about what I hear people say, what I see people do. There's a conversation that goes on in my head. And I used to think that that was strange till I found out that there's a spiritual component to me that has a voice that speaks. And it sounds like me, which is really strange because I'm literally talking in my head, but it's not really me. It's the spiritual aspect of me, which I do believe there's God's voice and there's Satan's voice. Sometimes I get them mixed up. I attempt to separate the divide, but I realize that the good voice or the God voice, that is my voice, is always going to point me in a direction of encouragement, uplifting, positivity. And the voice that is not God's voice is always going to send me down a ditch or a rabbit trail. Knowing the difference between the two helps me to understand the stories that I tell myself when I'm talking to myself in the head. Thank you. That's about it. Anybody else?
Anybody else? I'll give it a shot. Will's gonna give it a shot.
Pass the phone to you.
Madam Toastmaster, Madam Table Topics Master. It is interesting how we associate ourselves with those stories. Because if you think about it, it's not who you are. I'm going to kind of take it in a different way. And just realizing all our little thoughts aren't necessarily who we are. When you have those quick reactions out of anger, or say you have a headache and that drives you, makes you grumpy towards people you probably shouldn't be, realizing that, taking the time to realize that's not who you are and your little responses aren't who you are. And that's something I've been working on through meditation. A lot of it is learning to, one, not only observe your breath, but look and just sit with even your thoughts. And because it's interesting when you focus on everything, like your, not only your thoughts, but eventually seeing, oh, cool. I'm gonna try and wrap this up. All right, so it's just realizing you actually can get to a spot, and it's hard to get to because it doesn't happen often for me, where you can actually kind of just see your thoughts from a almost like a third person perspective. And you realize that like these are just impulses hitting your brain. And some of them could be God's voices, some of these could be Satan's voices. And who knows where else they're coming from. But it does bring the question on, like, so if those aren't you, then who are you? And I will take it back over to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Sarah, would you care to share?
No, I'm good.
No? Anyone else from our esteemed panel here?
I can share.
All right. Thank you, Brandy.
Absolutely. I'm gonna put the timer right here next to me so I know to look at it. Well, thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Hearing you all talk about the stories that we tell ourselves makes me think about the voices that we all hear in our head. And I think one of the most important ways to grow as a human is to listen to those voices without judgment, but to be aware. And I think that that's a big part of meditation. Because I know a lot of times during meditation, you'll hear people say like, you know, you're trying to just empty your mind, and then your mind wanders. And then you always say, notice that your mind wandered. Don't judge yourself for that your mind wandered. Just be aware of it. And I think awareness is such a huge thing for all of us to try to get to. because when we're aware of of the judgment, then we can be kinder to ourselves. Because I noticed that with a lot of people that I love, close friends and family members, they're very judgmental of themselves. And if you can take that judgment away and just be aware of the things that you're thinking, then you can find ways to be kinder to yourself, learn from what you're thinking, and move forward. There could be a whole speech on this because I don't feel like I even like scratched the surface of what I was trying to get up across there, but I'm almost at time. So with that, I will just say, listen to your voice without judgment. And I'll turn it back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you all for your contributions today. Are we at time? All right, I will turn this back to Madam Table Master.
Thank you. Thank you.
She was plugging you guys in so you didn't disappear.
I saw that the connection was waning, so yeah, thank you. That was very dynamic table topics. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
You guys got A's for your understandings.
Awesome. So now we get to hear the evaluation for our speaker today, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. And most of all, Kim. Wanted to congratulate you, Kim, on a very well done impromptu speech. So your speech was really captivating to me. It was hard to pay attention to timing and try to evaluate you because I just wanted to fully listen without trying to come up with things that you could do good, things that you could do better. And so I am going to use the good, better, best. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that you did well and some of the things that you can improve upon, and then what I thought you did best. You started out with a question, and that's always a great way to bring people in. And then you did the format of once you asked the question, sort of introduce what you were going to talk about. Then you said to all of us, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and that's always just like kind of like the standard professional way to do your speech. So wonderful job with that. Your storytelling was amazing. You're a very good storyteller. I was visualizing the whole thing. I have a whole scene in my mind, and that was really cool. And I love that just that you were able to share such an intense and vivid story of your life. And I wanted to say this at the very end, but I'm just going to say it now. I really encourage you to practice giving the speech a few times, and just so that it starts to flow really well. And I think that's one of the things that you could work on to make it a little bit better, is if you gave it a few more times, the storytelling would just be a little bit more cohesive, and then that would make it even better. And in terms of giving the speech, maybe a little more animation, a little more vocal variety, a little more hand gestures, just kind of really try to paint the picture even more. I mean, your word choices and your descriptions were great, but you could be a little bit more physical and a little more vocal. And then maybe the lighting a little bit different. It's pretty good. The lighting's like 90% there, but maybe like a little bit more of you, a little less of the light in the background. But I don't know. It's pretty good. So again, I really just loved the story. Just you were in a refugee camp, and just, I mean, this is really intense. This is really an incredible story, and I would love to know more and learn more from you about it and your experience. And I'm just so glad that you made it. I'm so glad that you found your sister and your dad, and it's got such a happy ending. And gosh, I want to know what the explosion was. I mean, I have so many questions. I can't believe you're getting shot at. And I mean, there was militia in the forest. I mean, it's just such an incredible story. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to our our Toastmaster today. And again, thank you, Kim, so much for your amazing speech.
Evaluation, and now I'll turn it over to our general evaluator.
So Chad,
Nicely done.
there at the end. All right. Well, I believe I go ahead by calling up the roles first.
Unless you want to do your evaluation. You get to-
Let's start with you first, Brandy, and I will just kind of combine the grammarian into everything. That way we could go a little more fluid. So
That
I will
sounds-
go ahead and call the timer up to the screen. Brandy, you're up.
Great. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. For time today, Kim, we have a speech of exactly 7 minutes. Great job. Buffy, we have a table topics of exactly 2 minutes. Somehow we all just ended up being like right on. Kathy, 1 minute and 25 seconds for your table topics. Will, your table topics was 1:43, and then my table topics was also 2 minutes. So we did a good job on kind of extending our table topics today. And then my speech, or my evaluation, excuse me, of Kim's speech was 3 minutes and 16 seconds, so a little bit over. And that is the timer's report. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Madam Timer. So I will go ahead, I will get the grammarian report out of the way real quick. Kathy, you had 2 ums and some words. That was really about it. I think you have 1 repeat in there. Now I'm thinking about all the ums I'm saying. What stuck out to me was conversation that goes on in my head, spiritual aspects, and God or Satan's voice. Kim, you had 2 ahs and ums, 2 ands. And really for you, it was mainly just the pauses as you were trying to think through your impromptu speech. But even again, those weren't too bad, really well done. Words that stuck out were hustling, waking up to chickens in a refugee camp, scariest story, militias, caterpillar leaves, or caterpillar-shaped leaves. And moving on, Brandy, you had about 11 ums, 2 ands, 1 like, 2 likes. You repeated yourself about 3 times. Words that stuck out were awareness, move forward, vocal variety, powerful. Sarah, we didn't really hear from you today, but that's all right. You just had the least amount of ahs and ums.
Think of anything what table topic.
Well, that's all right. It happens. So, and then Buffy, you had about 4 ums that I counted, about 4 repeats, 2 ahs, 2 all rights, and the words that stuck out were what stories we tell ourselves, our judgments, and then asking why before you jump to conclusions. And then just kind of tying it up with the general evaluation. So it was definitely a little more chaotic than I usual, but it all came together. I know we started about 10 minutes late. So I'm glad I could actually make it today to make sure everything was set up for the most part. Thank you, Kathy, for supplying the laptop, because it definitely, that started to be a little stressful not knowing if we were going to have that. So definitely kind of making sure, I know it's a lot of last minute stuff, but knowing who all is going to be here kind of would help. Luckily Buffy and Sarah, they've been here before and they were champs through it. It was good getting to talk to Sarah a little bit before and kind of trying to help her out with the membership stuff. But other than that, we did pull it together. It was a good time. That was a really cool story, Kim, and it's kind of synchronous because I actually, since I've moved to Washington, I've made actually quite a few friends who are from Cambodia. And being from Ohio, I don't think I'd ever met a Cambodian person in my entire life. And it's cool just hearing their stories and learning about it. Actually, I was just having a conversation with a recent immigrant from Cambodia, just talking about some of the conflicts between Thailand and them right now, and that's always interesting. But last time, getting off topic, it was a little chaotic at the start. It's always good that we pull it together, and it was fun. And yeah, we learned something new, and I got to think about what stories I tell myself. That was an interesting table topics. So I'm gonna cut it there because I'm starting to feel kind of like a little octopus kind of going off with all the roles. So I will hand it back over to you, Madam Table Topics Master. Oh, did I just say table? Oh,
Okay, okay.
whoop.
Okay. Well. Thank you, Will, for taking charge at the entry and at the exit and taking on all those roles. I know that's not something we like to do in terms of not being fully present and organized for our meetings. And we're hoping that this is going to wane since the summer is waning and kids are going back to school and the routine of life will reemerge. So with that being said, I'm not sure if Brandy, if you have, or Kim, if you have anything to kind of finalize it, but we do want to, of course, ask our guests, because you are still our guest, what your thoughts were concerning the meeting. I'm glad you took a role. What would you like to share?
I am grateful that the meetings that I've participated in other places aren't prepared me for this. That we come together, we co-create, and it's okay. So I'm grateful to know we're not the only ones who have issues, and that we have capacities beyond our awareness until suddenly we can do it. So.
Is there any feedback for today?
No, thank you.
And I see you have an application there, so it can certainly help you with that after the meeting.
Sure.
Okay.
I have one more thing to say. This was not a slipshod opportunity.
Good.
Just
Wait,
Nice.
words of the day. Yeah,
You get good at Buffy.
you can use it all day.
sorry,
Not just about that. Yeah, you can use it all day.
it's not just words of the hour.
Right. All right. Well, Brandy and Kim, do you have anything to share to close us out?
We could see if anybody wants to sign up for any roles for next week.
That would be great. I will be in Baltimore next week, so I know I won't be here unless I attempt to Zoom, but the wedding is next week. So
Yeah, don't set yourself up.
Also, it's like that time. Different.
yeah, different.
Time zone change. I have a meeting. I have a committee meeting next week. And it's like because of time.
Yeah.
Meeting then another meeting. So it's like my next Toastmaster meeting.
Oh, okay.
Will be on Zoom.
Okay. Oh, you'll be on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a role next week?
Sure.
Okay. Name it. We have for a new,
I would say timer.
yeah, timer, because you can.
Timer's a good one.
Yeah, timer, you can basically read the script because we have a script.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're on Zoom, we can maybe upload a script, or you can, if we have extras, we can give you a copy.
Okay.
So Sarah as timer, anybody else want to take on a role?
I'm gonna
Hey,
be.
Kathy, can
You're
can I
gonna-
ask you to can I ask you to officially end the meeting so I can stop
Yeah,
recording?
Yeah. Okay. The meeting is adjourned.